You can create displacements with any map, not just a bitmap. I'll show you how you can displace a cushion with a series of concavities using the gradient ramp map. Create a chamfer box with the following parameters. Assign a standard material to it, open the maps rollout, and assign the gradient ramp map to the displacement component. Uncheck Use Real World Scale and set tiling to 1 and 1 in U and V. Show the map in the viewport. And uncheck Real World Map Size in the primitive. Now you'll see the gradient tiling once on the object. By default, you'll be looking at a linear gradient. Change the type to radial. And then change the tiling to 4 in U and 3 in V. This will create an array of radial gradients. Notice how one of these rows is cut in two. Use U offset to move the array over so that they're centered within the geometry. A value of about 0.1 seems to do the trick. Notice that this array of radial gradients appears on the sides of the chamfer box as well. This is happening because the primitive uses box mapping type. To get rid of that, it's necessary to assign new texture coordinates to the object. Assign the UVW map with planar mapping type and uncheck Real World Map Size. Now we get the pattern appearing on the top, but not the sides, and this is what we want. In order to displace this object, it's necessary to assign the Displace Approximation modifier because we're dealing with a primitive object. If we were starting with an editable poly, this modifier would not be necessary because the editable poly has a subdivision displacement rollout that has similar controls to those you see here in the modifier. Click the high preset, and then if we render, we'll see the displacement now. But while we're designing it, it's helpful to assign the Displace Mesh World Space modifier, and we can see the displacement on the screen. Now this is clearly too much. Go up to the parent of the material and set the displacement amount at 25%. Then it's necessary to update the mesh here in the Displace Mesh binding. That tones it down. However, it's hard to tell what's really happening because we're seeing the gradient ramp in the viewport. Let's turn that off. Go into the map and toggle Show Map off. Now we can see the geometry, and it's very, very subtle. You can increase the resolution by increasing the topology of the primitive. Go to the base object and add a segment to length and width. And now you're starting to see the concavities more clearly. That's it. That's the effect I was shooting for. The displacement is occurring because of this chain of modifiers. You can simplify this by taking a snapshot. Go to the Tools menu and choose Snapshot, and take a single snapshot and make a mesh clone. This will create a new object. The scene now contains two chamfer boxes. We're looking at the original right now. I'll select number 2 and you'll see that it's simply an editable mesh.